But that's the silly season that we're in now. But hopefully my big hope is that Donald Trump is in such a position that he's not raising money. He doesn't really care what kind of snakes or what the media says about him. Matter of fact, he probably relishes it because he's going to trounce him on it. Because the media cannot destroy a Donald Trump. They've tried and tried and tried for the last 4 or so months. We know that for sure. They've thrown every damn thing in the world they can throw at the guy, and he goes up in the polls because he refutes what they say. He points out to how stupid they are by even saying it, and I think he wins all those arguments. And it's a sight to behold, because I can't remember in my lifetime where anybody's been ever able to pull that kind of Teflon, if you will, off. And it's because he's not beholden to anybody. Nobody controls Trump. He's not bought by the special interests. The RNC doesn't control him. And this is something that's driving the political parties on both sides of the aisle crazy, because, well, how are they going to get rid of this guy? When the Tea Party was up and coming in the last election, and even before that in 10 or whatever, the both parties, in a concerted effort, were going after the Tea Party because the Tea Party threatened both parties, threatened their power base. And neither one could stand that, because they have to be in power. They have to have control of their base. And a Tea Party could erode their base, and that would make them lose power. So they both got their forces together and ended up, without being able to call any one particular person to be in charge of the Tea Party, they just called the whole party racist, a bunch of racists. And there's nothing that could be further from the truth. There's no racists in that Tea Party. I went to Searchlight when they were had formulated, and they announced that they were going to have a get-together out there, and had a stage set up. Sarah Palin came in for it and did a speech, and I think they had some music, and it was a nice affair, and about 20-something thousand people showed up. I was there. I know what was there. I was trying to estimate myself by, you count 100 people, and then you times that by 10, and you got 1,000. So that makes a little section over there in your mind, and then you go section, 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 section. So you kind of add up, and you can guesstimate how many people were there. There were helicopters flying all over the place. I'm sure they had a fairly accurate estimate of how many people were there. And at the end of the day, when the mainstream liberal media gets a hold of the story, there might have been a couple thousand people out there. Yeah, Well, let me tell you something. There was 20,000 people out there. And I had to park 4 miles away and walk in. It was out in the desert a little bit. It was probably, 3 or 4 miles of Vegas side of Searchlight. And it was an interesting day. It was beautiful weather, clear as a bell. And all the people that were there were very affable, very friendly. Everybody was having a decent conversation, talking about the events of the day. There were no fights. There was no yelling. There was none of that going on. The only disruption didn't really happen there at the event. As Sarah Palin's bus was coming through Searchlight, there were some political operatives there, who I think I later found out was some members of the Carpenters Union. So there's the secret word union. That means liberals. And they were going to make a statement, so they were throwing eggs at Sarah Palin's bus that it drove through town. Now, what a bunch of babies. I mean, this is the other thing with these liberals. If they don't get their way, everybody's their enemy, and they're going to do whatever they can. They're going to throw eggs at your bus. I mean, these people are just crazy. I mean, I don't know why even the 47% that have been dumbed down so much and had their brains hijacked by the liberals, why can't they see this stuff going on? I mean, doesn't this mean anything to the people out there that have been brainwashed? Come on. I mean, Jesus, you got to have some 2 cents worth or something still left in your head that they haven't hijacked yet. I mean, how can you look at throwing eggs at a bus? I mean, it's just so silly. And then you got this reporter in Iowa calling Trump out, saying he called Carson a child molester. It's unbelievable. It just blows my mind, the depth and the lowness that these things will resort to. And everybody now hates Carson. If you can imagine that. He wrote a book some 50 years ago, and he said a few things in there that, tried to stab somebody, supposedly, and he hit his belt buckle. But who knows? I mean, he was writing a book. When Obama wrote a book, he put things in there like his girlfriend in college was named Julia. Well, no one's ever found Julia. Julia didn't exist. It was a complete fabrication on the part of Obama trying to make some distorted point about whatever, having this imaginary girlfriend. Who knows what the hell it was about? And then he also said, I think, that his grandfather died being some sort of a freedom fighter, wherever the heck he was from, probably Kenya someplace, and which was a complete fabrication, because the truth's now known that his father slipped and fell off a ladder while he was hanging some drapes. So, I mean, if you want to start throwing stones, these liberals that are throwing these stones, they better look at their own glass house that they live in, because there's never been a more unqualified person than Obama that ever became elected president. There's been a lot of winners that have run, but he became president somehow, and not only once but twice, which they're all running around bragging about the fact that he got elected twice. How that happens, I think, is a combination of Sandy, the hurricane, Romney's non-attention to the important issues, and to his lack of guts or lack of strength, or whatever you want to call it. He's not the type of person to go after and attack somebody. And he was just up against the media, up against everything, and just didn't work out. And then I think also is a combination that was kind of a lackluster campaign, especially there at the end with Sandy's and the hurricane and all this. And it just kind of lost whatever steam was there. It kind of fizzled out at the end. And then, of course, you got to remember that the same polls, I think Harry Reid was running, and or maybe it was prior to that. But anyways, he was running against Engel, and he was 5% down in the polls on the day of the election. And lo and behold, he wins by 5 points. Now, I'm not saying polls are everything, but in a local election like that, I would guess that polls are probably tend to be more accurate than the national polls, perhaps. But that's a pretty interesting swing from 5 down to 5 up. I mean, very, very sneaky. And then we were getting reports of people that had gone and voted at these voting machines, and they voted for Engel, and then they went on down and voted and voted and voted. And then before they left, they went back and started checking who they voted for and whatnot. And the people that voted for Engel noticed that their vote had changed to Reid. Well, gee, I wonder if that has something to do with how Reid goes from 5 down to 5 up. Do you think? Seems kind of coincidental, doesn't it? And, of course, there were a lot of complaints made over that. Nothing, of course, was ever done about it because there's no enforcement in this country. Nobody enforces anything. The foxes that are guarding the hen house, we're the hens, folks, we're the hens. And the foxes are the judges and the Harry Reids and the elected officials and all the people that are supposed to be in power and be enforcers of our laws. They're the ones that are falling on the sword and not doing anything. And they don't support the laws when they come to themselves. And this allows them to get away with anything because they take the laws that they don't like and they ignore them, don't do anything about them. And the laws that go after their enemies, the people that don't agree with them, they use the laws then against those people and enforce them. So it's quite the little corruption game we got going on here. It's very, very bad. very, very corrupt. And nothing works in a corrupt society like that. So we're on the way to the cliff. We're marching in lockstep right towards it. And we're going to go over the cliff if this keeps going this way. So we have a few things going on that if we can get enough people to pay attention, enough people to be on top of what is really happening, look to the truth, don't look for the crap that the liberals and progressives like Hillary Clinton's putting out there. We won't even talk about Bernie Sanders. That guy's on another planet. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and he's been talking that way, I think, his whole career. He ran off to his honeymoon to Russia. So, I mean, you know, this guy's something else. He thinks that he can tax the workers in this country, 92% of their income, and then give away free this, free that, free college, free medical care to everybody, free this, free that. And he thinks that's going to work. Well, it's not going to work. Never has it ever worked in any society that we're aware of, and unfortunately we're only aware of what happened in this planet. Boy, sometimes I'd like to have some sort of a time machine available to me where you could fly around to other universes and other solar systems, and I'm 100% guarantee you there's other life out there, and it's unlimited, because what limits the universe? Nothing can limit the universe. The same thing, if there's no limit to something, there's something here that we're in called the universe that it never ends. Because ask yourself, if it ends, what's on the other side of it? What ends it? Nothing can end this place we're in. Nothing. It goes on forever. There is no end to it. So being the fact that there's absolutely no end, there's no limits to what's out there, because you can't limit something that never ends. So think about it. We have this massive, 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 unending space. And how many times when something doesn't end can you have exactly the same thing that's going on here right now today on this planet? It doesn't end. It's unlimited. There are just as many people sitting around doing now what we're doing today, and the elements have been just right at a particular time and space where another Earth has been created, and there's not just one, there is an unlimited amount of them, because nothing ends. So if it doesn't end, it's there. So I would like to, anyways, the point was, it won't happen, but my point is I'm going to invent a time machine where I can just zip around and bring some friends with me, especially from the liberal side of the persuasion, and maybe we can find another Earth that is a little bit further down the road than we are, and maybe we can find two Earths. One has taken the path of conservatism, and the world's productive. Everybody produces something. There's no more wars because they proved over the years they were stupid, and they were mindsets of the liberals and the progressives trying to divide everybody, and they finally figured it out that that wasn't going to work. So they got together and stopped all that, and everyone gets along. Everybody works with what they have, and if they don't have more than somebody else, that's just the way it is, and nothing you can do about it. You can work harder and try to do better, but sometimes you're just born with a silver spoon in your mouth, and that's all there is to it. No sense trying to take the silver spoons away, because that wouldn't be right either. So it's the luck of the draw, if you will. It's just the luck of the draw. And I know it's not politically correct, and maybe this utopian world, it really works because it's conservative, and it works for what it works for. There's nothing special about it. It just works because other people are not trying to divide it to get power. That's the problem with this planet and this United States, is we're divided. And that's what divide and conquer. It's a very applicable statement. And that's what's happened to this country. And we've allowed it to happen. We have these elected officials that get in power, and while they're there in power, they do things to corrupt the world, or their world, and they're rebel rousers. They want to cause a problem so that they can claim to be the ones that can fix it. And that is just ridiculous. Carly Fiorina has been saying that over and over, in the debates and in front of cameras and stuff for quite a while now. And it's so true. And that's what the background is of your illustrious president now, Obama. He was a community, well, it's hard to call a community organizer, that's the title, I guess, but he was a community disorganizer, and he was a rebel rouser, and he would cause problems, and then he would tell the people that only he could fix the problems. And this is the way they work, and this is all they have. And rile up the people, get them all excited about something, then ride in on your white horse and save the day. But the problem with that is they never save the day. They just look around, get another problem going so they can ride in on their white horse and save another day. None of this works. This is trotting towards the cliff. And once we go over the cliff, we're not going to come back. Now, there were some French monarchs, and I guess there's other examples around the world. People that probably know them that are more adept at history than I am, but I know in the world that these monarchs, like in France, had all their heads cut off because it was a revolution. You're on the air.
Attention. This.
Anyways, I don't feel like getting on attention today. These telemarketers are just rampant. But anyways, the French Revolution resulted in the people revolting, and they had enough of the king taking all their assets and living a luxury life that kings do. And they ended up with guillotines that were invented, and they just started having these festivals, I don't know if that's the right word, but where they would just line up all these past royals and just chop off their heads. Boom, with a guillotine, zingo, done, gonzo. Your head would fall into a basket, and that's all she wrote. And that's how things end sometimes in this world, that you take away the rights of the people to the point where they get enough and they do something about it. And there's been numerous coups that have happened over history, and it's the same thing, that what goes around, I guess, comes around. And live by the sword, die by the sword sort of mentality. And this is what happens. And nothing weird about it. I would say that in other planets this has happened before, and it'll happen again. And we have certain humps that this world has gotten over, the bubonic plague and some other diseases. The dinosaurs didn't work out too well for them. And there's things that happen in a planet that causes devastation. And either the planet starts over or it ends forever. And I think slowly all the planets in this solar system are going to get sucked into the sun. I think that's the fuel for the sun. And gravity and this and that, and everything's going to end up getting closer and closer to the sun. And when we get, for our lives, this way that we live, what creates human beings and the way we function, will end when we get to a certain temperature. And so we're going to be nothing more than the next closest planet to the sun from us, Mercury or whatever it is, but it's just a desolated desert bunch of crap that's burned up. Now, maybe billions and billions of years ago, maybe there were people living on that planet before they got too close to the sun. Very possible. Because for life to exist, I think you just need the elements that we know that we need to survive. You just need that on another planet. And you'll end up with life the same way we did. It evolves. It happens with water and combination of nutrients, and life evolves, and it becomes more intelligent, and things adapt to their environment, and you end up with humans like we are. Or more advanced humans, if the planet has survived long enough, ends up with maybe they've even invented spaceships where they can travel around a little bit. Maybe we have been visited from other planets, but I don't know if I believe that or not. I know there's other life out there. There's no doubt about that. My only question is, has anybody, any of these solar systems where there's other planets, have they progressed and survived after all the plagues and diseases and AIDS and stuff like that that have a potential for wiping out the entire planet. How many places have gotten over that and have gone on to develop a more advanced life than we had, to the point to where they can actually travel around a little bit? That's the question. There's no question it's out there. It's a question of how successful they've been and how far they've progressed. And I think that's the way I got the world figured out anyways, and I don't know who could argue against me. Probably some of that 47% that's out there. But they, you know what? They don't really argue, though. They get this look of birds fluttering around in their head when they're asked a serious question that they don't have an answer for. You can tell they don't have much going on up there. It's not a real high-powered computer that they're working with, and they don't know things. You can ask them pretty simple questions, and they have no clue what you're talking about, and that's too bad. And it's been, I think, a design that the liberals and the progressive, it's been a movement that they put in play decades ago to dumb down the students, the young people in this country, so that they become zombies and end up voting for the liberal movement and ideology. And this is why we're in the problems we're in. Look around the country to the cities that like Detroit and other that have been run by liberals mostly. The mayors get elected, they're liberal, then the legislature and the Senate follow suit, and pretty soon you have a very, very liberal city, and they fall on their face sooner or later because the policies don't work. They don't support productivity. They support devastation. And this is what's going to happen. But I think this country is strong enough, has enough people, has a big enough silent majority that can wake up and do a lot to straighten this country out, because we can get it straightened out. I think that the plans that Donald Trump's put forth, especially with immigration, is very common sense principle. You have these opposition, the liberals, of course, and then some of these Republicans, they call them Republicans, but like a Kasich and other ones that are knocking Trump, saying you can't do what Trump's proposing. But what is Trump proposing? Some media guy asked him one time, trying to get him trapped, I guess, about his immigration policy, say, well, you can't split up families and take kids who were born here in the United States and take their parents and send them back to Mexico. That's splitting up families. And Trump, with his instincts, and has always been correct that I know of, says send them all back. Well, then everybody, all the liberals go crazy, saying you can't take kids and send them back because they're American citizens. And Trump said, no, they're not. And, now you got all the liberals out there running around pointing to phony cases. They point to one that is totally inapplicable because it revolved around Chinese couple that were here working on the railroad, laying track back in, I guess, the 1800s or whatever. And they had a kid while they were here. And then when the railroad was done, they picked up their kid and they went back to China. Well, when the kid got to be 18, I guess it was, he wanted to come back to the United States and figured out that he'd been born here, so he made the claim that he was a U.S. citizen. I think it may have gone, I'm not 100% sure because I read the case, got to the point where it was inapplicable because it's totally different, where his parents were here legally. They weren't citizens, but they weren't illegals. So they were here doing a job. And even so, the parents never took any allegiance to the United States, and they went back to China when they were done here. So there was no allegiance, and I think the Constitution reads, or Article 14 reads, that you have to be under the jurisdiction of the United States to be a citizen, and then you have to swear an allegiance to the United States. Well, people that are not here legally cannot swear to allegiance because the United States doesn't have any jurisdiction over them. They have to go through the proper procedure to become a U.S. citizen. And having never done so, the parents are not legal citizens, and neither are their children. Even if they're born here, it doesn't matter. You can't stroll across the border when you're 8.5 months pregnant, pop a kid out, and then go back to Mexico or wherever you're from, and then end up bringing your whole family in, because the applicable word is an anchor baby, and that's a very applicable word that the liberals are running around saying that's some kind of a word that shouldn't be used anymore because it's racist or it's this or that. An anchor. Anchor's a racist word now. Yeah, everything about them is just unbelievably out there. It's crazy. So Donald Trump was right. Now, all these people are saying, well, you can't go around door to door. And what are you going to have armies going and removing people like Elian Gonzalez and send them back to here? You got to have how many thousands and thousands of people you're going to have knocking on doors and remove it. When did Trump ever say this has to be done overnight? Never. You need a policy that comes from the top down or from the bottom up too. This is what the people want. And you need to implement the policy. The first thing you need to do is build a wall that secures the border and prevents the problem that exists here in the United States from getting worse. Once that's solved, then you can start with your policy implementing. First of all, get rid of the sanctuary cities. They got to go. By go, I mean you got to get rid of these sanctuary word where you're giving free havens to criminals and other people, and the police won't hold them for ISIS, so we can send them back to wherever the hell they came from. ICE, I'm sorry. And you have to have a policy that's going to control immigration and going to control the illegals, and we're going to start to clean up this country. And I think people that are here legally, no matter where they emanated from, if you ask legal citizens that have gone through the process, I guarantee you 100% of them would be against allowing illegal immigrants to stay here. They don't want them competing for their jobs and whatnot, and they went through the procedure, and they sure as hell are going to feel like they've been taken advantage of if someone else just strolls in and has a baby and they get ahead of them in the process. Not fair. So we need a policy established from real leaders that come up with a plan that makes sense. The progressives, the liberals will never ever come up with a plan on immigration that makes sense because they don't care if you're legal or not. They just want your head counted as a body because that gives the Electoral College more power in areas that have had a lot of illegal head counts, and that changes the whole election outlook. And this is what they want, because these people that are here illegally would tend to vote, if they could vote, for liberals. And Harry Reid and that people cut from his ilk will bus you into the polls, whether you're legal or not. Jerry Brown out of California will make sure you have a nice little driver's license so that you can line up and vote. And it's a big game that these people are playing, and it's a very serious game, and it could destroy this country. And as a country, we can't allow that to happen. We have to watch out for the corruption. And we need to work at making sure that we're informed. And that's what this radio show is trying to do, is talk to people, inform them. That's what the herd's all about. We're trying to create a movement to where people want to be heard and will voice their opinions, voice their solutions of what the possible moves that can be made that will help straighten out a lot of the things that we got going on around here to get us back to the constitutional foundation that created this country and uphold the laws of the country. Now, not every law in the book is a good law, but every law in the book, in my opinion, is the law until it's changed. And we need a lawful society, and we need to be able to abide by the laws while they're there. And we need to make sure that the officials that are from the enforcement side of that do their job and enforce the laws. This is not rocket science. This is very easy to do. And it needs to be done. And we need to supervise the people that we elect to be these enforcement officials and make sure they do their job. And we just need to straighten the country out and run it the way it's supposed to be run. And the country is for we the people, one nation, remember all that language, and that's what we need to restore this country to. And then we can eliminate a lot of our problems. One of my big head solution is to get rid of the political parties because they're corrupt. There's no question about that. Who can argue with that? They're corrupt organizations that steal the people that we, the people, vote for. And that's not right. That's against the very foundation of this country. And we have to demand that we stop that and we get the people back to where we are in charge of this country. And we're going to demand that the laws be upheld, and that's what we're going to do. So the sooner we get at this, the better off we'll be. There's no sense having anybody in power that's not doing their job 1 minute longer. We need to get rid of them and get rid of them soon. And in the future, when we elect somebody and we find out they're a bad apple, they're not doing what we elected them to do, we need to be able to get rid of them immediately. We don't need to have to wait for the next election cycle because a lot of damage can be done in an election cycle. And you just watch. I predict in this next year, this last year of Obama's power in office, he is going to do every single thing he can do to devastate this country and make it worse off than it was before he got in office. That's been his goal from day one. Every single thing that he's done has been 180 degrees in the wrong direction. And we have to put a stop to this. So join us here, folks. Give us a call. Our number is 702-983-0711. Let us know what you think, what your solutions are. We'll keep track of them. That's one of the things that I want to do, is to be able to catalog the suggestions, and then we'll just put a little mark when someone wants to join that solution and say that they like that solution or offer a solution of their own. We'll keep track of it. And then as we build up our organization with more and more people being involved with us under the HERD banner, we'll become more and more powerful. And that's what we want to be. We want to be joined with all the people that agree with us. All they want is to make America great again. Who can argue with that? We want laws upheld that have already been passed and enacted by the various state legislatures and the Congress of the United States. We want the laws that have been passed, we want them upheld. And we want the enforcement arms of these various organizations to do their job and enforce the laws. What are we asking for? This is not tough. Now the people in power will kill them. They don't want that. A lot of the laws prevent them from grabbing all the power that they can grab, and that's anti what they want to do, so they don't like it. So we're never going to get this established. We're never going to get it implemented from the top down. We have to do this from the bottom up, and that's where the herd comes in. We're going to get a herd of people together, and we're going to become as big as we possibly can be. When this thing starts to go, hopefully it'll snowball, and we'll end up with thousands of members just here in this community, and that'll lead to other communities doing the same thing. And at some point, maybe a few years down the road, we'll have significant amount of town halls and activities going on around the country that we can broadcast right here from this radio station. If people want to have a town hall, let's pick a city like Tampa, let's say, and we will record whatever they're saying and we'll broadcast it live all over the world. That's one of the advantages of a radio station like this. We're heard everywhere in the entire world, just like you were sitting at a radio in your living room listening to something. You can't tell the difference. You could be listening right now in Paris, France. You could be listening anywhere. In Afghanistan, if you had internet access, you could be listening to this show. And it would sound just like it sounds to you all. So we're here. We can use the facility we have in place to promote what we think needs to be done to this country, to where we get it back functioning the way it was supposed to. And when this country is working the way it is or does, we give a lot of people freedom all over the world. And this is the goal that we should all have, is to make this a big free planet. You don't have dictatorships, and you have productive people working to put bread and milk on their table and educate little Johnny and educate them in the right way so that they don't become these weirdo Wall Streeters. They actually become productive members of society, and they produce something. And they produce something of value. And then we're all set. If we can get restored to that level, we'd be doing great, great things, and we would be off to the races. And that would work. And it will work again and again. And maybe we wouldn't have to get it back on a kick where we're marching towards the cliff. And that's my only hope. I'm getting up there in age. I feel for, my offspring and any younger kids in their, teens and 20s. They have to really pay attention because they're the susceptible ones. They're hanging out there. They can be grabbed and hijacked and have their brains distorted, and then they become detriment to this country. And we don't want that. We want everybody to be an asset, and an asset not only to themselves, but to the community as well. And if you got a job to do that creates something or makes other people, successful, then you're doing a good job. And you should be rewarded, and you will be rewarded. Only the Bernie Sanders of the world take away your reward and think you're going to do something for nothing, and it's not going to happen. So we got to get some common sense back on the planet, and we got to get people thinking in the right direction, and then we need to keep them there. So we got our work cut out for us, but we should start now rather than later, and hopefully we can be successful and get this country to where we all can be proud of it, to where the new generations are going to live better than the past generations. And right now, I think for the first time ever, that's not the case. The current generation is not going to live better than the previous one. And that's a shame that we've digressed to this point, to where the world, the United States, and America, is not the country that we envisioned it was. And that's just terrible. We're really letting down the younger people of this country. And that's a shame. And people like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, they should not be able to look themselves straight in the mirror because they're despicable people. They're causing the destruction of a great, great country. And we can't allow that to continue. We have to nip that in the bud. And we will. And we need your help to do it, so call the radio station. Let us know you're out there. 702-983-0711. We'll keep track of your ideas. We're not one of those NASA type units where we have to keep track of your name and your social security number and your mother's maiden name and the color of the eyes of your cat and all that. All we're interested in is that you join us as a group, and maybe you send us $1 so that we can use that symbol that we have you as a member, and we'll deposit that in a bank, and we'll keep track of that dollar, and that symbolizes you. And when we get X amount of dollars, that's going to be a symbolism that is not going to be lost on the people that we elect to office and the people that we emanate our ideas to and say, this is what we want you to do. X amount of herd members have said that they want to do this. Let's say, for example, get rid of the political parties. And we expect you to support us in that endeavor and make sure that that happens. And if we get it on an initiative, on a ballot initiative, then so be it. When X amount of people vote that way in this country, that'll pass, and the political parties will be toast. And then we'll be on the road to recovery for sure, because that's going to take care of a lot of our problems. Why do we have two parties in this country? What does that do except divide us? Who can say what the point, what the purpose is of having two parties? What's the benefit to the people? Name one benefit to the people. And you're going to get these liberals are going to be going, wee. They're not going to know an answer to that. There is no benefit to the people of this country, we the people, no benefit whatsoever to have two political parties. Two things are divisive. They divide. And that's never going to work. Simple as that. It just doesn't work. And never has worked, never will work. So we have history. Things have been tried before for the most part, and things have failed before. And we need to stay away from the failures and learn from the failures so that we don't repeat the same mistakes that have been made before. This, like I said, we're not building new rocket ships here. We're establishing and abiding by long established principles. And it's going to make this country great again. We're going to hopefully have Donald Trump to lead us for at least 4 years, hopefully 8 years, to the road to recovery. And once we get to that end result again, where we're recovered and we are respected around the world again, we got to be sure that we never, ever, ever elect another party like the last one we've had for 7 years now. Has just been the worst president ever, worst administration. The other people involved in the administration, from John Kerry and all the way up and down Holder and all these winners are just gigantic losers. And we can't allow this to happen to this great country again. Elections have consequences, and we have to make damn sure that we get in power people that we can control. We the people, this country's for us. We're the only ones with the agenda that is for the strength of the country. These politicians' agenda quickly becomes the agenda of the parties over and above all else, which also becomes their personal agenda because they're part of that party. And that's a division type thing going on there, and we need to put a halt to it. So join us here at the Herd. Send us a buck. Call us up, 702-983-0711, and let us know what you want to do, what your thoughts are. And let us know where various people here in Las Vegas would suggest that we have some meetings where people can gather. I don't know how many we'll get to start with, but let's get something and let's get talking, and then that'll snowball, and we'll have more and more people contacting us and showing up for these meetings, and we'll get more and more discussed, and we'll get a bigger base, and we'll get more power. And as time goes on, hopefully we can straighten this country out, and we can get back onto the road to recovery. And then this time we can keep that car going down that road and not let it be deviated off the main street by left wing or even right wing, for that matter, these zealots that are so far off the mainstream that they're dinosaurs that need to be eliminated like any disease. If you allow corruption to fester, it'll grow, and it'll take over everything sooner or later. The corruption that we're seeing here in Nevada and elsewhere will take over the entire United States of America. And it'll spread south, spread north, and it'll spread around the whole world. So we need to be damn sure that we discuss this and come up with a plan of what solutions we can put in place to get this going in the right direction again. So let us know. Give us a call. Tell us what you think. Talk to your neighbors. When you go to the grocery store, talk to the people in line with you. Say, you know, we've got some things to do here. And you hope that they're paying attention, and you hope that they don't have the attitude, well, nothing they can do, you know, the hell with it, that we're going to go off the cliff, and that's all there is to it, and, you know, that's going to be that. Well, that's too bad if that's what happens, because we do have a great country here. We have a lot of resources to rely on, and we'll be able to make it by utilizing the resources that we have, and we'll be able to take advantage, and we'll be able to get ahead. This country has a lot going for it, and we need to say thank you to people like Donald Trump that will take a sacrifice, and it is a sacrifice, to run for president, because you go through so much crap. I don't know why anybody like a Donald Trump would ever want to go through it. You only live once. Why he wants to take this on, I can say thank you to him, because I appreciate what he's going through. And he wants to do it to straighten out the country. That's why he's doing it. He's no other reason to do it. A lot of the other people on that stage have ulterior motives, and their motives aren't as pure as Donald Trump's. And none of them are giving up anything compared to what Donald Trump is risking and putting on the line. And you know, we need to pay attention, and we need to say thank you, and we need to support Donald Trump. You need to support this radio station, Radio Tribune, and radiotribune.com. It's the way you find us, and you need to pay attention. That's all we ask. Just pay attention. Realize the truth. There's so many lies that are going around. There's so much crap out there. I heard one of these illustrious college students the other day say that 99% of the wealth is controlled by 1% of the people. So 99% of all the assets in this country are controlled by 1% of the people. Now, I know there's that language type is bantered around by various low information people. But man, oh man, that is so far off the number, it's insane. But these people believe it. And that sounds good, doesn't it? Oh, wow, we're 90. No, why should 1% of the people have 99% of everything? That's playing that old card, you know, the what yours is mine type deal. And the poor people, they're entitled to all the wealthier people's money. I mean, it's just sick. These people didn't get this money by just lying around for the most part. They had to work for it. They had to build something. And then you have this illustrious leader, this Barack Obama, saying several years back, wow, you people didn't build that. You think that's your company? You didn't build that company. I mean, what an arrogant piece of crap we have for a president. I mean, Jesus Christ. You know, he has let this country just slip. And it's more than that. I mean, slip would be like a Carter with his ineptitude. I don't think Jimmy Carter wanted to ruin this country. I just think he didn't know how the hell to run a country. I think Obama doesn't know how to run a country either, but he's being told how not to run it, and he believes that. And, you know, he doesn't need to ever be in charge of anything, and we don't need to ever elect a guy like that again to be president of this country. What damage could a Donald Trump do? Explain one thing that he could ever do that would damage this country, especially when you compare the two men, Donald Trump to Barack Obama. What in the world is the difference there? It's just about everything. Donald Trump has made things, have produced things. He produced revenue for his family and all his workers and all the customers that he comes in contact with, whether they go to his hotels in Atlantic City or around the world, places, golf courses, or what have you. You know, there's a lot going on, and we need a leader that can straighten this world out, and I think Donald Trump's that leader, and I'll support him 100%. And then I get in conversations sometimes with these people that, well, I don't really trust Donald Trump. He quit before, and he's going to quit again. And okay, fine. Now, okay, so who do you support? You going to support Hillary Clinton because you can't support Trump because you think he might quit? You better hope the hell he doesn't quit, because I'll tell you something, my friend. That's the only chance we got, because he can straighten this country out quicker than anybody else. And he can straighten out other leaders of other countries that are a big competition. Take China, take these other countries that are against us in a way, and they're always trying to beat us in these deals, and they do beat us in the deals because our leaders are stupid. They're not qualified to lead anything, let alone lead a country. What are these people? Maxine Waters, Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid. What do these people bring to the table? Nothing. It's a bad situation. And we've let it get out of hand, and we need to snap it back into reality. So help us get together and do this. You can call into this show on 702-983-0711. Let us know what your solutions are, and we'll try to implement them. We'll at least keep track of them, and we'll at least let people running for office or what have you know what we want done. And then by George, we're going to make sure they do it. And that's what we're going to be all about here at The Herd. So if you want to join us, let us know. Come by and see us. Write us, go online, Las Vegas Tribune's on there, Radio Tribune's on there. Give us a holler, let us know what your ideas are, and we'll implement them. And we'll get this country back on track, and you can vote for Donald Trump, and that'll go a long way to getting this country back. So let's do this, folks. Let's do it.